I do want to say I saw Colin last weekend. He said he would love to be on if we want to have him for a guest star like we did with Patrick.
Fuck yeah, dude. Do you have a movie in mind?
No, I just told him I'd let him know what we end up drawing today.
Okay.
He's gonna regret saying that. We're gonna pull some shit. I already know it.
It's gonna be like Patrick and the fucking Ascent. Like
Patrick did not like that movie.
I don't think any of us did.
Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for a cinematic odyssey through the 100 greatest films spanning from the roaring 1920s to the cutting-edge masterpieces of 2024. Carefully curated from the lovely people on Letterboxd. Two intrepid souls embark on a journey through a treasure trove of timeless classics and groundbreaking contemporary works, where each frame embodies the enduring magic of the silver screen. Grab your popcorn and join us on this epic expedition through a century of cinematic excellence, where every film promises to enchant, inspire, and leave an indelible mark on the soul. And now, for your listening pleasure, here are the LetterBros.
Welcome to the newest.
Nice.
Welcome. Welcome everybody to the newest episode of LetterBros, where we let a wheel decide our fate and what movie we will watch next, based off the top 100 movies on Letterboxd. Just getting my legs in there.
All right.
What? Shut up. As always, I'm Felix, and I'm joined by Parker. How are we doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. That was a great intro.
Yeah, it's the
Your
best
legs
one we've
doing
had
okay?
so far.
100%. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Like I said, slept late this morning, but it's okay. It's all good. Here talking about Cinema Paradiso, and I'm excited to get into it. Our first Italian film, maybe the only Italian film on the list.
I have not had a chance to look, but nonetheless, at least it's a nice departure from Bergman, Japanese or American. So it's been really nice. I mean, this is my first Italian film, if you like to call Godfather Part 2 a co-production, because a lot of it is in Italian too, but this is my first full Italian film. For those that are watching, last episode we pulled Cinema Paradiso from 1988, and I'll let Parker dive into the synopsis of the film just to get our feet wet.
For sure. So, yes, we had Cinema Paradiso, which is not a Spanish film, as I had initially thought last episode. It is indeed a 1988 Italian film that follows the life of Salvatore Toto de Vita, who, upon hearing of the death of his childhood mentor, Alfredo, reminisces about his youth in the small Sicilian fictional village of Giancaldo. Through flashbacks, we witness Toto's formative years that were spent at the local movie theater, Cinema Paradiso, where Alfredo, the projectionist, fosters his love for cinema. The story chronicles Toto's coming of age, his first love, and his eventual departure from his hometown, leaving behind the people and the place that shaped him. And I should also mention that the movie is directed by Giuseppe Tornatore. The score is composed by Ennio Morricone, edited by Mario Mora. The cinematography is by Blasco Gerato. And do you want me to go through the main cast here as well, real quick?
Yeah, we'll
Good.
just blast through them real quick.
So we do have three different actors that play our protagonist of Toto. My favorite is Salvatore Cascio as young Toto, and he really shines in the first half of this movie. Then we have Marco Leonardi as teenage Toto, Jacques Perrin as adult Salvatore, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and then Felipe Noriet as Alfredo. And that's really our main cast. We also have Agnesi Nano as Alina, and then Maria, is that his sister?
Hang on, I have it pulled up here because honestly, I was really prepared to just talk about Alfredo and Salvatore.
Yeah, those are really the cast and the characters that we need to know, because the film really only revolves around those two characters. What I love about the film is there's a lot of characters in them, and they all have like little vignette style dedicated scenes to them.
Yeah.
So the movie feels very full of life. The village really comes alive, and you come to know the people that live there. But the plot really follows Toto and Alfredo, as you said. So Felix, what are your initial thoughts on the film? Like, what are your takeaways? What did you end up feeling from this movie? What did you think?
I thought it was fun. I mean, I initially, when you go back to our last episode, I thought it was going to be a movie about filmmaking, which is very special to my heart. I really liked, that's what I loved about, Sunset Boulevard. It's what I liked about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or even like, the Coen brothers with Hail Caesar. Like movies about like filmmaking are fun to me. And that's what I thought we were getting with this. But I was pleasantly surprised with, it's not so much about the making of films, but like the feeling that films give you, and like the inspiration that films give you, which is basis for this podcast. So, it was something that was a nice departure. It's in Italian, which is, a little bit more accessible to me and Parker, which is fun. But honestly, like the feelings that this movie made me feel were so wholesome and heartwarming. And I don't know if you also felt the same way. Like it helps that you get a lot of time with these supporting characters who have so much character in them. Like the priest has like such a pivotal role in this movie, even like, you know,
Mhm.
moving a little bit forward. But when Cinema Paradiso eventually burns down and the new benefactor comes in and like builds it back from the ground up, you get such a good relationship with him. Like it all like builds up to this moment where Toto comes back and you see all of these characters again, and they're much older, that you're just like, you're left with like, oh damn, like it's almost like when you leave home and you come back and you see like a family member or a friend and how much they've aged in the time that you've been away. So it was really nice to kind of get that feeling in a movie where, like, these are all fictional people, but you still connect to them like they're so real.
Yeah, there really is, like I said, so much life, and that's built by the supporting cast.
Hmm.
Like you said, the priest and the new benefactor, and I wish that we almost and the homeless man who's square. It's his piazza. I mean, so much character to this little village, and where this film really struck home for me was the prospect of leaving home and going to do something where you feel, in a sense, that you're so apart from all of these people who shaped you. Like I'm directly relating to that right now in my current life. So that definitely hit home for me on a just on a personal level. Um, Now, I really loved the first half of this movie where we see young Toto for the first time with his head through the curtains, watching as the priest looks and censors movies. And what he's doing is he's taking out all of the kissing scenes. And we will see the progression of that later in the film throughout, and which is great. But it evokes such a childlike sense of wonder in me when you see little Toto's head through the curtain and he's just laughing and just loving the fact that he's seeing even kissing scenes on the big screen, like things he's not even supposed to see. And there's so much wonder, so much curiosity, and so much love just for going to the movies in this film, because it really is a thing that the town does together, and that is also something I loved. This is before television. Really, we see television start to come in towards the end, and that's what causes Cinema Paradiso to close. So this is before that time where you could really only go and watch it in the cinema house. So I think wonder, like childlike wonder, is a great way to describe the film, at least the first half on the whole. I do, however, think that the second half was a little bit on the weaker side. What are your thoughts on child Toto versus teenage Toto and the stories that were told there?
I agree. And I feel like part of that might be from us watching the theatrical cut of the movie. Yeah, because I think the movie on the whole from the theatrical version is about 2 hours and 3 minutes. And the theatrical or the extended cut, I think, is almost like 3 hours long.
2 hours and 53 minutes. And I did consult Reddit mostly. And the general consensus seems to be that the theatrical cut is actually much better than the director cut.
This
That
is,
the
yeah.
director's cut suffers from some pretty bad pacing issues, is what I've seen online. And
Mhm.
I'm sure maybe I'll give it a watch down the road, but it definitely felt like there could have been more added, especially to our tertiary characters, specifically Elena Toto's mom, and then there's no point in him really even having a sister other than showing us the progression of time. And I get it, like that's kind of, I understand that maybe he wasn't around his family a lot, but his mom goes from completely not trusting and disliking Alfredo in a sense to, and there is some progression, but I feel like his relationship with Alfredo progresses too quickly, and so does his relationship with Elena. And then I felt as though his relationship with his mother was underdeveloped personally.
Yeah, it felt like we only really got like a nice with a not a nice snippet, but really just a snippet of like typical like the arts are not the progression to go through, and that she disciplines Toto a lot, and it kind of make her they kind of make her seem like she's this bad person essentially, and that Alfredo is there to kind of really be the paternal figure, which eventually he does anyway because his father dies in the war. But I mean, we really don't get a lot of development through the characters that are familiar, like that, of the familial connection towards Toto. But I was fine with that because we got so much more progression for these characters that I genuinely wanted to care about, like Toto, like Alfredo, like the priest, the benefactor, like literally everyone else in this movie, like really struck home for me, and I really enjoyed their performances too. Sorry, there's like a hair on my microphone. But I would agree with you in that there was a big pacing issue where, when we're with young Toto, who, first of all, you could have told me that little Toto was a fucking small Italian man, and I would have believed it. He has like such confidence in himself
Yeah,
and his
too much
like
character.
literally the one note that I have bolded and highlighted is when he turns to Alfredo, he goes, and I was
Yeah,
I was like dying laughing. It was so good. But again, just like I would have been fine with that almost being the whole movie.
me too.
Like having the movie end, or like, have a little bit more time showing the actual development of like, how did Toto meet Alfredo? How did they begin this relationship? Because when you get
Yes.
thrown in the movie, they already know each other.
No, I feel like we did get. Sorry to interrupt, but I feel like we did get some of that progression. Like what, for example, the scene where Alfredo covers for Toto and gives his mom 50 lyre or whatever the currency is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would have loved more of that. And I like, and not to move too much forward here, but I like that there was a love interest and the idea of your first love and losing that and then reminiscing on it towards the end. But I also would have liked to see more development between Alfredo and young Toto. I don't know. I feel like the movie kind of strayed away between Toto and Elena. Like we spent what felt like to me wasted time there, because the way that their relationship progressed was like kind of weird. Like they never really seemed to have chemistry, in my opinion.
I felt the exact same way. I felt like Elena was almost kind of like just an unnecessary involvement of this. Like the way that I was
I
going
like
into
the
this,
idea of it.
yeah,
I like the idea of it.
like the whole, like before going into this episode today, I was gonna go in here and say, the beginning of the movie is incredible. The middle of the movie to me is just so uninteresting, and that when we actually get to adult Toto and the death of Alfredo, that's where the movie picks back up again. But I feel like it's also a directorial choice where you feel all of this magic and all of this like childlike wonder in the beginning, and you're so comfortable with that. But then you get into like the teenage years of Toto, and you kind of start losing that magic, and you start to see real life blending into Toto's life. So it's kind of like a reflection of actual real life. I mean,
I guess, but I mean, I really feel like that the portion of the movie where we follow teenage Toto is the most cinematic, in the sense where I felt that those scenes is really where the director Giuseppe Tornatore wanted to show his passion and love for filmmaking, because that's where you get a super dramatic and super unrealistic sneak up kiss in the rain, right? Like that's never going to happen. That's purely movie magic.
yeah.
That's not real life. That where you get, I really love the scene of him sneaking into the priest confessional box. I thought that's the only time though that teenage Toto showed real charm.
Yeah.
So I really feel like there was a disconnect between the actors, and where young Toto was so charming, so conniving, and still so lovable, where teenage Toto really felt introverted, not entirely confident, and like he was just chasing after things without really any sense of confidence. So they felt like two different people to me in a way.
But I feel like
Did you
that's
kind of feel
also
like,
like you can attribute that to just, growing up. Like when
yeah,
you're
that
a
is
kid, you
true.
really
That's true.
have no sense of consequences or repercussions. You're not thinking about girls. You're just wanting to go out and have fun. But now you have the pressure of puberty, you have the pressure of, bleeding into adulthood. And that's, I feel like, what teenage Toto is going through at that moment. Like he's experiencing first love and being awkward about like, how do I approach this? Like he literally listens to a story from Alfredo about a guy who stood out of a girl's window for 100 days and is like, that's what I'm gonna do.
Right. That I thought was kind of, I didn't love that.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cringe. Come on, guy.
I liked the proverb or the story that Alfredo told.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that he said that there's no meaning to it. Like, take from it what you will.
But what
I
I,
don't know. I thought
what
it was
I'll
too
what I'll
direct
go
for
ahead
that.
and do is we've talked a little bit about Toto, but I feel like he took a step back in terms of like who the real star of this movie, in my opinion, is, and that to me is Philip Noret as Alfredo. He
Mhm.
truly is like the glue that holds this movie together. And he was the one that, like, obviously about Alfredo's death in the very beginning of the movie. So you're kind of like, oh, okay. So you're kind of already set with the mindset of like, okay, he's going to die. How much am I going to care about this character? Spoiler, it's a whole fucking lot. Alfredo is such a like grandiose character in this movie and shows so much charm and is just he's played very well by a French actor. And I would have never thought, because he plays Italian to a fucking T. I would have thought this man was an actual like full bred Italian.
Well, I thought he played Italian great. And I didn't have any issues with any of the actors in this film. The only issues that I kind of had with Alfredo's character, who I did like on the whole, was he was made to be incredibly dumb in some ways, to the point where he's literally relying on cheating off like an 8-year-old Toto on some exam. That portion also didn't really make sense to me in terms of a tit for tat. I understand, narratively speaking, you have to get Alfredo to concede to Toto to let him into the projectionist room,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't think that was the best way for that to happen. Personally, it just cheapened kind of Alfredo's intelligence and will as a character. And I get that he's not supposed to be some brilliant guy,
Yeah.
but I
Don't
don't know.
make
Do you
him
follow
seem
what
like
I'm saying?
he's like a bumbling idiot. Like they feel like it's
Dumber
just
than a
plain
fourth
that he,
grader.
has been working in this projection room or been working in that sort of line of work for literally all his life and has not had an opportunity to go out and get an education. So he has to go and take these tests like through other night school participants. But I feel like there's a better way to do, like, he has such a pivotal role in this movie and you're making him out to be this like this idiot.
On the whole, I agree. I think that it's an excellent performance, and Alfredo really is kind of a glue that holds the plot of the film together. I wouldn't say that I'm like as crazy about him as a character as you seem to be, but I still liked him. I think that the movie really swam between being a slice of life film where you're just kind of watching the events of life unfold, and being a film that really wanted to have a narrative and follow a cohesive story. And it kind of flips and flops right between those two types of movies. And
Mhm.
that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was certainly interesting. Alfredo really was the glue that held the plot side of the film together. So on the whole, I liked his progression of saying, through his experience, Toto, don't come back, don't ever come back. He had a clear love for Toto and for just the little things in life, and hearing the laughter of the theater and feeling like he's the one that makes them laugh. Like, it's very sweet, it's very charming.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I think those are the two words that I feel are very like that is what I would probably describe this movie experience as a whole. Like a lot of the what I really enjoyed was just any scene that we were in the theater watching a movie with the rest of the village together.
Yes,
Like any scene that we
absolutely.
like seeing all the different things that are going on like as the movie is progressing, like when we get like the first version of the movie theater and everybody's coming together and, you know, literally yelling at the screen, being like, I haven't seen a kiss in 20 years. Like, to then finally it's now revamped and you literally see in the corner, like, literally a hooker coming out of a room and grabbing the next guy in, like, just the progression of how people are
Right.
enjoying this same.
And dude, there's crazy shit that happens in the theater. We see a dude literally die of a heart attack, and then the next movie there's flowers on his seat. We see a row of like 6 kids jerking it to semi-nude once the kissing thing kind of happens in the new theater because it's under new ownership.
Mhm.
And I think my favorite scene in the movie, though, that really captures the essence of the film on the whole is right before the original Cinema Paradiso burns down and Alfredo reflects the projection onto the building. And the whole mob outside gets to go and watch in the piazza. And the homeless man stands up and he says, the square's mine. Don't joke about that. It makes me mad. And Alfredo puts the sound on and he's watching from the window. And just knowing that he, as the projectionist, though it's, you know, it's modest work, he solely is bringing enjoyment to an entire town in that moment and
Exactly.
finding peace in that and finding enjoyment with them. And it's really just a cohesive moment in the film that perfectly exemplifies what the movie is about. That and the ending. And I know we got to move into the rankings here, but let's talk about the ending because I think that this is one of the best endings of any movies I've ever seen. I love the ending.
Yeah.
Where we have older Salvatore in his own office theater, essentially. And he's found all of the cut films from the beginning of the movie, all the cut pieces of film of the kisses that were censored by the father of the town. And he's watching them and just reminiscing. And you can see it in Jacques Perrin, and you seeing his eyes kind of well up with the emotion of his past and kind of reflecting on everything that brought him to where he is now is so poignant and so touching. And I cried. I mean, it was such a beautiful way to wrap up this film, which really at its base is about reminiscing and thinking of and respecting and paying tribute to the things that made you who you are at this very moment.
Mhm.
And I loved it. I thought it was great.
I think that scene, along with, like, you know, the projection on the piazza, was probably the 2 moments in my life where I was like, this is literally what the movies are all about. Like, this
Right.
to me is just perfect cinema. Like, this is what movies are made for. And then going back to the piazza scene is that you spend so much time just like basking in that feeling to when the theater catches on fire, you are shocked and heartbroken that this is happening in such a beautiful moment that the village is coming together and now the whole theater fucking catches on fire and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, but again, like the ending, it's, I agree, is one of the best endings, not only that we have seen on this podcast, but just that I have ever seen. Like, it's that, and the piazza scene is probably one of the reasons why this movie won Best Foreign Language Film at the Academy Awards. So I think we can discuss a little bit more into detail with our rankings.
Let's do it.
All right. So for enjoyability and rewatchability, I feel like this is a movie I would go back to. It's not necessarily like a movie where there's a twist, so like you kind of watch it and are like, oh, whatever, or it's a movie that makes you feel like sad, kind of like Grave of the Fireflies, even though I watched that movie a lot. This is a movie where you could go back to and just feel good every time you're watching it. So with that, I gave it a 13 out of 15. It's obviously not up there with movies that are going to be a pivotal part of my life, but it certainly is making its way in there. Like, I knew this movie was going to be fun and enjoyable. I did not think it was going to be as emotionally striking as it was.
For enjoyability and rewatchability, I give this film an 11 out of 15. Similar to you, I think, like, I personally think 13, 14, 15 range is where you really get into, like, those films that I can just put on, like Jaws, Jurassic Park, Men in Black, like, that kind of, I don't know. I just named 3, like, cheeseburger movies, I feel like. But It's I would like to revisit the director's cut at some point, certainly. And on the whole, I did enjoy the movie. There were some moments where I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit, but it was good. I liked it. For story, tough. I want to hear yours, and I might bump it up to a 12, but right now I have it at an 11. And I really am deducting from a higher score just because of the from the 1 hour mark out right after the theater burns down until like an hour and 40 minutes in where teenage Toto leaves, or maybe that's even later in the movie and we get older Toto again. That was really I felt like narratively speaking, the film kind of lost itself there. So right now I have it sitting at an 11. What about you?
I'll go and put you at an 11 for now then. I gave it a 13 just cuz I know I did have my gripes with with the teenage Toto storyline. I felt like it was a little bit rushed. Like you do get those scenes where he is now running the theater himself, which is a nice like kind of full circle moment to where Alfredo was teaching him how to do it and now he's running it himself. But I feel like the introduction of Elena and him trying to like swoon her, not unnecessary, but it was very rushed. So, but I mean,
Put me at
the
a 12.
beginning of the film, I feel makes up for it so much because it's so good. And it's so, you feel so connected to the relationship that Alfredo and Toto are building as this old man and this child that you can't help but just like smile the entire time you're watching it.
Yeah, I agree. Put me at a 12. I'm looking at my old rankings
Nice.
of other movies on the list, and I feel 12 is better fitting. What
Yeah.
do you have for lasting impression?
I also have it at a 13 just because, again, I knew I was going to enjoy this movie. I thought it was going to be a lot of fun, but I didn't think it was going to be so emotionally striking. And obviously, like, this is a passion project for Giuseppe. That he is also from Sicily, by the way. So I feel like, again, this movie is a reflection of like his own life growing up. So I feel like that kind of just love for cinema, it's poignant in our society today. I mean, we literally have a whole social media platform just about movies, and it's this movie is one of the reasons why. It truly shows like the magic and the passion that movies can really drive someone. And even like, I know we were discussing it earlier because we don't really know what Toto does as an adult. Like you would think that he would go on to do like film and all of that, but we never really see. But you could love film and not even go into the industry, but still have such a passion for it. So I feel like this movie is a nice just vignette and a nice just like snapshot of what film means to a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. For a lasting impression, I give it a 12. And mostly what resonated with me again was just the prospect of leaving home after having built so many relationships and stories there, and what that kind of looks like and the people that you meet. And I thought that that's really where older Salvatore's performance shined, was with those reflective thoughts. For visual and auditory appeal, I don't think that the movie really did anything crazy. I think that it was like a decent looking movie with a really good score that certainly evoked a lot of emotion. And I realized that, like, for some reason, like seven sounds kind of low, but I think we've been watching a lot of really visually striking films recently. And I think that this is a good looking film, but on a scale of 1 to 10, like the numbers 1 through 5 also still exist. And I think that a 7 is a good spot to land this movie on the whole. It's good.
Yeah.
I can see your wheels turning now a little
What's
bit.
that?
I feel like your wheels started turning there on your score for this.
No, I honestly thought that like your audio cut out. So I was like, wait, what the hell is going on? Because I'm not looking at the cameras right now. I'm just looking at this. I gave it an 8. And to your point, the movie is not doing anything visually striking. It's kind of just like in the middle. But I feel that the score bumped this score a lot. Like the music evokes so much emotion, and it has these swelling scores in some of the highest emotional states of this movie, like specifically the ending when we're watching all of the censored scenes. It's just such a nice just combination of like what music and film can evoke in your emotions, and I feel that was very pivotal in the film, and why I feel that it's best to leave it at an 8. For pacing, I also gave it an 8. Just again, I'm not the biggest fan of the middle of this movie. I feel that we really didn't spend a lot of time developing this relationship when it's a coming of age movie and you're getting to that point of like having your first love and having, starting to feel these emotions that you're not really familiar with. I feel like that could have been portrayed in a much better way. And I feel that Elena was almost like, not to like be rude, but kind of like a throwaway character when she's supposed to play such a pivotal role in this man's life. But I feel like she was just very bland. That'll play into another score, but I felt like that we were chugging along with the beginning of the movie, and it was so fun that when we get to the teenage years, you're just kind of like, oh, you're taking a step back, and then Alfredo dies, and you're kind of put back into that feeling you had in the beginning of the movie. So
Yeah, I think I'm also going to give it an 8. I didn't think the film dragged at any point. The only issues I think that kind of feel like pacing issues were more suspension of disbelief issues, if I'm being honest, because I feel like there were some jumps that occurred where certain things didn't necessarily feel earned or just kind of felt random or out of place. But pacing wise, I was definitely engaged the whole time. We did dip. Like if I were to lean one way or the other, I'd lean far more towards a 7 than a 9. And I'm thinking on it. I'm really thinking on it. And I already had given this a score of an 8. But let me move into acting, and I'll just keep thinking about pacing. But acting wise, I have this down as an 8 for acting. I think that the weakest performance was Teenage Toto, personally. And I think that there were good performances all around, but there were some weak points. I think that maybe it's not even the acting that was the issue, but I'm sticking it at an 8. That's where I feel good. I feel confident in that score. What about you?
I also gave it an 8. I felt like there were performances that didn't need to be that great, but they were like, like the side characters,
Yeah,
phenomenal.
they're so good.
I cared more about them than Toto's own mom. Like
Yeah.
that I don't know if that's something to blame on the actor or if it was direction. Like I'm not really sure. I'm not Giuseppe Tornatore. I honestly think that a lot of the stronger performances were Alfredo and especially child Toto just stole the show entirely. And if that would have been the whole movie, I feel like this would have been bumped up to a 9 or even possibly a 10 if that was the whole movie. But we got more people. There's other performances that brought that score down for me, like specifically Elena, his mom.
I liked
There's
Elena. I just I didn't like Teenage Toto, dude. Like he was such a simp.
He really was a simp, dude. But that's where I feel comfortable leaving it at an 8. I want to hear what your score is for suspension of disbelief first, because I
Okay,
am very interested to hear like where your fault is with it.
I gave it a 7. And again, there were just certain things in the movie that I liked to a degree that were meant to be like cinematic. But for example, like I just didn't love him standing outside the window. Like that felt wasted. Maybe that's a pacing issue. Maybe that's a story issue. I'll put it in suspension, or maybe it's kind of
No,
spread
I
out.
agree with you though. Like that's
I
definitely like a suspension of disbelief moment. Like how like,
I
and I
rolled
don't
my
know if
eyes
that's going to
hard
be like towards,
when
the director saying that like, oh, this is just like a movie moment, but I felt like it
yeah.
was kind of unnecessary.
I definitely rolled my eyes hard where like he's laying down in the rain and she just like sneaks up over him out of nowhere. I was flabbergasted. I didn't love that.
Well, like when she was on vacation and now all of a sudden she's here.
And also, dude, I could not stand this. This is not affecting my score. Just like a note, I could not stand watching them kiss. Like it was the most awkward kissing I've ever seen. They're like opposites. Like I don't know. It just they weren't lining up.
Like
I
when
don't
they
really
were
know how to.
in the projection room and they have like their first kiss and you're having this like I kind of felt that, to be honest, where like
And
this
for a
is such a
movie,
pivotal moment in Toto's life and like this is part of this coming of age story, but then you're looking at it and you're like, ugh.
But for a movie that is so focused in some ways about cinematic kisses, like I feel like the kisses really could have stood out in this film between Toto and Elena, and I did not feel like the kisses earned their sparks. Like I wasn't filled with like that youthful romantic like passion as like you know, like when you're in high school and you're like falling in love with everybody. I don't know if you went through that, but
Okay.
I don't know. I was just like where you're a hopeless romantic. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
watch like kisses on the big screen, and it's like
To be
wow,
fair,
true love.
nobody watched any kiss scenes in these movies though. Like you're
I
growing
get,
up
but Toto
watching these
did.
movies and nobody I want to see how this
Toto
whole
did.
village is kissing people, bro. Nobody knows what
Toto
they're
did.
doing.
Toto did. He watched them
So, not
through
a
the
lot
curtains.
though. It was just in the beginning of the
Come on,
movie.
but you get what I'm saying. But you get
I
what I'm saying.
do. There's definitely like in terms of like the cinematic portion of the movie where kisses are censored and all of this, you would think that such a pivotal moment in the movie would be given a little bit more oomph, I feel.
Yeah. Well, any of the kisses, like yeah, for them to be set up in a way that feels rewarding. None of them felt rewarding. It felt like boom, all of a sudden Elena decides that she likes Toto.
Yeah. I thought that it was really weird. I don't feel just because some dude stood out my window for 100 days. Now I'm like, I guess I gotta like him now, but
Yeah.
it's dumb. No kisses for you. Suspension of disbelief. I feel like, and now I feel like I'm gonna have to go back and edit my Letterboxd review now because I agree. I had it at a 9, but thinking about it now, I think I'm just gonna give it an 8. Like there really is like throughout the movie, like you're kind of swept in, and I feel that the scene of the piazza really honed it in and held me into the environment that this movie is creating. But even just talking about how pivotal kisses are in this movie, and like that you feel kind of taken aback when you're seeing that and not really feeling, I don't know. I get what you're saying and I agree, and that's why I knocked it down a point. But and I was trying not to, like I was kind of teetering on the line for not even lasting impression, for story. I was going to agree with you there, but I'm here thinking like, "Oh, but I got to stick it with what I have on Letterboxd already." But it's what the edit button is for.
Nah, dude, I've gone back and I've changed scores for films that we've already talked about. If I'm being honest, like these rankings are somewhat fluid, and a film will only ever change like a couple of points. So really, it could be like think of it as like a plus minus like 3 points at any given time. But
Yeah.
like generally where the movie sits, and the score in my mind is just kind of like a middle point of where it can typically float depending on how you're feeling that day. You know.
Well, for originality, I gave this movie a 9. Obviously, we have movies about like what the movies make you feel like, but I feel that this has such a personal connection with the director and how this kind of storyline was kind of driven through this movie. I felt was pretty wholly original. Again, with also this being like my first Italian film, I was in love with it. I want to see more Italian film. I feel
Me
that
too.
the Italian language sits so well with me and feels very familiar to me, even though like obviously I didn't grow up Italian, but I love the language, I love the culture, love the people, obviously here with Parker. But there's just something about like just the emotions that the Italians have is very familiar with like, my Spanish roots. But I felt like it was conveyed in such a beautiful way through this movie that I felt was not necessarily original, but very authentic to me, is where I see it being like pushing into the score a lot.
Yeah, I gave it an 8. I think it's a lot of what you said. It's a nice. I give it an 8. Like that's where
Yeah.
I think. For attachment, though, I really feel what you said, and I give it a 4 there. It really does feel like it encapsulates a little bit of what I grew up with. I was thinking of my trips, to Italy, and even though I've never been to Sicily, and Sicily can be a bit culturally different than much else of Italy. Really depends on where you are. It still felt like kind of at home, and I was thinking like my Nona would have loved this movie for sure, and so it definitely felt personal to me. So I put it there out of 4 for personal attachment. So 77 for me, 4 stars. What about you, Felix?
I had this originally at a 4 to push this to an 85, but now it sits at an 84.
Okay.
Thanks to other factors. But again, I really did feel a wonderful connection to this movie. As much as I want to keep it at an 85, this is not going to be a 5 out of 5 attachment score for me. Like, this is not.
Yeah.
Obviously, I did feel such a great connection to this movie and to the characters and the whole story of it. 4 is where I'm going to leave it at. So with that, we have it at an 80.5. So again, a 4-star movie overall, which puts it. Oh my goodness.
Nice.
It's an 80.5, so it'll go right above Wild Strawberries.
Solid place for it.
I think
Right below
so
Grave
too.
of the Fireflies. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great place for this movie.
But yep, so we have it sitting right there at number 9. So in our top 10.
A top 10
but yeah,
movie for us so far, Cinema Paradiso, with a score of 80.5. Now all of our top 10 movies have a score of at least 80, while number 11 through 24
yeah, we are
have a
at
score below 80. So that's definitely the threshold for us right now, is the score of 80.
yeah, exactly. So
So
it's
yeah, we're
gotta
about to
make
pull
it
up.
above there to stay within the top 10, but I
So
feel like
we
we have some
are,
strong movies ahead of us for sure.
yeah, we're about to get into our 24th film, right?
We sure are. But here we are. It's always the best moment of every week. So I love to see it here, but we live.
Let me video it. I'll send it to Colin.
Oh my God. Wait, I want to see what you're doing.
I'm just
Oh, yeah.
videoing it.
Oh, okay. Bet. Well, all right. Parker and possibly Colin. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, shit. Here we freaking go. No way. Oh my God. Oh. Oh my God, dude. If it would have been fucking Interstellar.
That's right. I'm excited for this. The pianist, we have, what's his name from The Brutalist, right?
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody, yeah.
So we have pulled The Pianist from 2002. When we pulled it, it was sitting at 72, but let me see where we are sitting at it now.
Very close. For those listening and not watching, we were very close to Interstellar, which I watched that movie very recently. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't have been crazy about watching it immediately again, but
Adrian Brody really sticking with movies that start with the. Oh, and it's a Roman Polanski film.
oh, I did not know that actually.
It sure is. Well, we have pulled The Pianist from 2002, directed by Roman Polanski. It currently sitting with a 4.4 average rating on Letterboxd with 19,000 fans. This movie definitely made waves at the Oscars. I believe this won Best Picture.
I have no idea, but it's now sitting at number 69 on the top 100. So it has moved up a little bit.
Nice.
Shall I dive into the summary?
Go for it.
So yes, like you said, we have 2002's The Pianist, which is the true story. Oh, okay. I did not know this is a true story film. Cool. The true story of pianist Władysław Spillman's experiences in Warsaw during the Nazi occupation. When the Jews of the city find themselves forced into a ghetto, Spillman finds work playing in a cafe. And when his family is deported in 1942, he stays behind, works for a while as a laborer, and eventually goes into hiding in the ruins of the war-torn city. So this also kind of feels like it's going to be an epic, as we would say. What's the runtime on this piece?
150 minutes.
Okay, so nothing too absurd or crazy. Pretty average for these movies.
Shout out to Patrick for already rating it 4.5 stars.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, this is definitely something that I've been wanting to watch. Obviously, like we just had The Brutalist, I want to say this year. And I was really blown away by Adrian Brody in that. And I know he has such a strong performance in The Pianist. So I'm excited. I don't understand why Adrian Brody just likes to be in these terrible situations all the time. But I mean, here we are. We're going to be watching The Pianist.
Cool. I'm excited to get into it.
Same here, but
and then after that, after The Pianist, on our very next episode, we will be pulling the 25th movie, Felix. We will be
So
after we watch it, a fourth of the way through.
I know, dude, it's crazy. But as always, Parker, it is fun. I'm excited to be close to pulling our 25th film, but we'll get through The Pianist. I'm really excited about it. But as always, Parker, where can people find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd. It's Parker_Paget. Yeah, just watched Companion. Pretty mids film in my opinion, but yeah, follow me on there, and if you want, if you don't want to, I mean that's like that's cool too.
No, go follow him. God
I
damn
just
it.
got Pro for some reason. I just like impulse bought Pro because I saw
Hell
all
yeah.
your stats, Felix. I was like, that's cool. I want a stats page, and
Yeah.
it's all right. It's like I don't know if it's worth $20 a year, maybe like $20 once,
Like
but
forever.
yeah, but that's an aside. I mean,
Yeah, we'll see. I really wanted the feature for like being able to change your own posters, but that's like the next
$50
tier.
a year.
There's no way, dude.
Yeah,
Sorry,
like what?
Letterboxd. But you can also follow me on Letterboxd at ETZIO911. I just watched Killing of a Sacred Deer. I know Parker had some. He's not the biggest. Oh my god, what is this director's name?
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Killing of a Sacred Deer. I like Yorgos.
you watched The Lobster, right?
I've seen The Lobster. It's like a weird ass fucking movie that like is good to watch once, and like I probably don't like. I might watch it again down the line because
That's how I
it's
felt
somewhat
with Killing. It
interesting.
was like I don't care about these characters; they all
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
robots. But like,
exactly,
but it's
exactly.
fine. I can appreciate it for what it is.
He's
I really like
he's
Barry
an original
Keoghan.
filmmaker for sure, which is what I appreciate. He
Yeah,
creates very original movies.
same. I feel that. I loved Poor
You
Thing.
also create original movies?
Oh yeah, I do. What are you talking about? But yeah, and then just go ahead and follow us on Instagram, LetterBros Pod.
Yes.
It's where we have our updates. I know I have not been posting a lot of reels lately, but I want to try and get back into the swing of that. But go follow us. It's where we have all of our news. It's when you know when we got episodes coming up. So do that. But as always, this is the LetterBros podcast, and we will see you at the movies.